first ism that we have been practicing for so many years. You for 30, me for close to 20.
Journalism,
Journalism.
Mainstream media today has been captured by the Modi government. The time for non-alignment is over because something very dark is happening to our republic. The BJP is using state power, state machinery to make politics impossible for the opposition. The government is committing foul after foul after foul. No red card to the government, only red card to the opposition and the opposition parties.
There appears to be a problem when it comes to secularism and the TMC. Political violence is a reality in Bengal, but no matter which political entity is fighting, which two isms are in a path of collision, Raja Duddhe, it's the Sipahi who's dying, and it in effect means that Dalits and Muslims are dying no matter what.
I think Mamata Banerjee is the only leader who had the guts on 22nd February when the consecration of the 22nd January when the Ram Mandir consecration was happening. She actually led a public multi-faith march down the streets of Calcutta with representatives of all faiths. A woman, a plebeian woman, without any patronage, without any family. She's, we talk about trolling on the internet and, getting upset because of Twitter. She was literally beaten on the street.
Beaten on the street, and that's
beaten on the street.
Yeah. How do you deal with accusations of being a nepo kid? You come from privilege, you come from an illustrious background.
Yeah, I don't consider myself a dynast at all. I consider myself an Ambedkarite because I believe in social justice. Okay. Yes, I quote Ambedkar all the time. The journalists of Republic TV, according to me, are not journalists. They are propagandists. They spread hate. And they are not fair or accurate. So when a propagandist goes to a particular place and demands the freedoms of the journalist.
You are an avowed liberal. You go as far as to even say I'm a left liberal.
No, I'm not a left liberal.
No, okay.
No, I'm not a left liberal at all. I'm a classical liberal.
Classical liberal.
Classical liberal.
Okay. A bunch of people are asking you about what is the liberal take on the question of affirmative action. Someone compared you to the last queen of France, Marie Antoinette, and said,
I think Marxism is full of intellectuals, and intellectuals I don't think make good politicians.
Once you become this politician who we can actually take, don't even have a slate. We can't say you have a clean slate, you don't even have a slate.
No, I don't have a slate.
Yet. So when your slate is a little populated, we'll go after you.
Yeah, of course, please. I welcome it.
The most influential ism in the country today appears to be Hindutva. It has taken a long time for this ideology to come of age. But what happened to the other ideological movements that began in the early 20th century? The RSS will turn 100 years old next year, but so will the Communist Party of India. Ambedkarism, Marxism, liberalism, Dravidianism, feminism, Gandhiism. What role are these great big isms of the 20th century playing in the 21st century? What relevance do they have today?
I'm an atheist in the same way as I'm an a-leprechaun.
Why have there been casteism existing in the country still today?
Feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights.
The nature of the system is to be as mean and rotten as you can, to try to maximize profit.
The national elections are around the corner, and what better time than now to talk about isms. I'm Sudipto Mondal, and welcome to this special election series of What's Your Ism? Today we're going to try and understand the ism of the Trinamool Congress party's Rajya Sabha nominee, Sagarika Ghose. Hi Sagarika.
Hi Sudipto.
How are you doing?
Nice to be with you.
Nervous? This is your first big interview as a politician?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm nervous too, but this is a new medium for me.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll help me, I'm hoping.
Of course. I mean, let's just chat and keep the conversation going.
Yeah. So the show is not about your alliance choices. It's not about the real hustle bustle of politics right now, in the build-up to the election. It's about isms, right? So we're going to try and discuss some theoretical aspects and things like that.
Of course, I'd love that.
Yeah, but first things first, I mean, the first ism that we have been practicing for so many years, you for 30, me for close to 20,
Journalism, right.
And you've completely abandoned us, you're leaving, why?
Not at all, actually. I continue to write my columns, but I have left full-time journalism. and I've chosen to join a political party. And the question is, why did I do this? Sudipto, of late, I have been distancing myself from the newsroom. Since 2020, I've actually pulled out of the newsroom. I was in Times of India as a consulting editor. I've pulled out. I was writing my books and my columns. And because frankly, what is happening to mainstream media? Now, I hasten to add mainstream media, not you guys in the digital space.
Can I read out what you said about the mainstream media?
Yes.
There is little space anymore for quality journalism, what I consider good writing. Writing that interrogates, provokes, communicates ideas. This is your piece when you justified getting into politics.
Yes, I believe that mainstream media today has been captured by the Modi government. I think what has happened to mainstream media is a catastrophe. It's a calamity. Just recently, you may have seen that the major news channels were censured actually by the National Broadcasting Authority for spreading hate. I think mainstream is has become a propaganda machine. It's become a purveyor of hate. It's become a purveyor of bigotry. And it's become a outrider and trumpeter of the regime. And this runs counter to what I believe journalism should be. I believe journalism should be anti-establishment, should ask questions, should interrogate, and there's no space left for the kind of writing that I want to do. I want to do questioning, interrogating writing of the government, any government, whichever government, you know, this is party agnostic. Whichever government is in power, the journalist's job is to question that government and do fair, accurate journalism, right? But today, I just find that journalism has become, mainstream journalism, I hasten to add again, has become propaganda, has become a purveyor of hate. And the time for non-alignment is over, Sudipto. The time for non-alignment is over because something very dark is happening to our republic. The values of the Indian Republic are being dismantled. It's being changed. Hindutva, which is the governing ideology of the time, of the government, I believe is profoundly anti-constitutional. And the basis of the project of 1947, the constitutional values we created in 1947, I believe these are in serious danger. And the dangers go far beyond anything that I could have addressed as a journalist. You know, simply writing my articles or writing my books. I felt that was, you know, I was raising my voice, but the space for that was continuously shrinking. That is why I have not said goodbye to journalism in the sense I've not said goodbye to writing. I continue to write. It's my core capacity.
But your writing will now be what? How do you put it? I don't want to use a strong word, but do you think it will be colored by the fact that...
I'm in the opposition.
It will always be taken with a pinch of salt now, no? Don't you
I don't think so.
Credibility will be like eroded to a certain extent.
But I don't think so because I'm a member of the opposition and as an opposition...
From an opposition point of view.
From an opposition point of view, I will be voicing the views of the opposition. And, you know, remember, I have not joined the ruling party. I've joined the opposition at a time when the opposition supposedly doesn't have a hope in hell in 2024. That is what is being said. But I want to keep alive the questioning, the interrogation, the sort of examination of this government as a voice in the opposition and lend my shoulder to the wheel of the opposition's cause because I believe that space has to be protected because you see if the opposition space is protected, then other spaces get protected down the line. Then journalism gets protected, then NGOs get protected, then civil society gets protected. But if the opposition dies, democracy dies.
I get that, but can I mean, from a journalist to a journalist, right?
Yeah.
Can I say that I'm a little disappointed that, okay, fine, the legacy media is what it is. It has
terrible.
Been, but one could argue that it has always been like that. The legacy media has been...
Not to this extent, Sudipto.
Okay,
not to this extent.
I'll let that go, but I'm just saying you could have come onto our side, right? Yeah. Which is, you know, here are these outlets.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I mean, I think you guys...
See, you saw what we've been doing, right? Like, did you see the Karnataka elections? These 5 outlets, we came together.
I saw that, and I also think that I laud you for this story you've done on the 30 firms which have been ED, which have been probed by the ED, NIT, and then forced to donate to the BJP. So I think
you know what? Sorry to cut you there, but what I love about that exercise is that there were so many people behind the scenes working on that story. The byline is what you see as the tip of the iceberg, really. So many people's hard work, you know, it went into it, both in terms of the sources, some other journalists who had also worked behind the scenes. There's so much excitement now. It's the tragedy, I would say, still is that we don't have that captive audience. The newspaper is not landing with a thud outside your door today.
But I think you guys are doing a fantastic job.
And you should have joined us, no?
I'm too old.
Okay.
I'm too old. Okay. I'm going to be 60 this year. Wow. You're supposed to say you don't look it.
No, not at all.
Good. Yes. So I'm 59. Yeah. I've had over 3 decades in journalism. And my medium is, ultimately the newspaper. I was a newspaper reporter and a newspaper writer and an op-ed writer for years. And then I joined journalism as a mainstream news anchor. I love that. But, my heart is in print. But these are my mediums, television and mainstream print. So I don't have the technical know-how. I saw Dhruv Rathi's incredible video on democracy, and I really had a lot of admiration for that. But, it's not my medium. I don't have the technical know-how for that. I don't have the skills to be as effective on a digital platform, perhaps as you guys can be. So for me, at this stage in my life, I thought that given the skills that I have of continuously opposing religion-based nationalism, continuously opposing Hindutva, the Trinamool stands as a bulwark against the BJP in Bengal, in the East. I thought I would be best utilized in the political opposition.
Okay, we'll come to that part.
Yeah.
Okay, there will be an opportunity for you to speak about the TMC and all, but I still want to, because you're a senior journalist, there's a lot young people can still learn from you and things like that. One of the things I suppose your generation of women journalists did was to introduce that female gaze. I'm talking about if you're in that age category. I mean, my own former editor, we just spoke about Parvati Menon and this whole generation of women who came and said, hey, uncle, step aside. What can you talk about the female gaze? So what in your gaze allowed your journalism to stand out? Do you think your gaze as a woman journalist impacted your journalism in any way?
No, apart from being a woman, I think that was important as a woman journalist. I think we shattered a lot of glass ceilings in my time. I joined journalism in 1991 in the Times of India, where, the big beats, the defense and foreign affairs was all done by the men, and the women had to do health and education because those were seen as not important beats when they were actually very important beats. But TV changed all of that, and I think today when I see the young, when in CNN, IBN, when I used to see the young female reporters, I was full of admiration because they would just hoist the camera and they would be off just like any other guy. I think we shattered the glass ceiling. I don't think we've completely shattered the glass ceiling because I think we'd still find it difficult to find a woman editor-in-chief. You go up, but then you stop.
My boss is one of them.
Your bosses. In the digital space, it's very different.
Yeah.
But in mainstream media, it's very difficult to find, say, either a woman editor-in-chief, the top job, or a female news anchor at 9 p.m. is the big slot, and very difficult to find a woman
Even
there.
now, they are not.
There are very few. I think there's 1 or 2. But
and 1.5 of them is a right-winger.
Let's not even go there. So I don't consider that journalism, even. So my point is that, we did shatter many glass ceilings because we went everywhere. And, to me, the joy of being out in the field was unparalleled. With your notepad, you're going out there, you're talking to people, you're traveling from place to place. It's exhilarating. So, but I think what I also was doing was consciously or unconsciously at first, keeping alive certain values that I instinctively wanted to constantly defend, right? Secularism, multi-faith, plural India, the belief in the individual, the sort of struggle for social justice of individuals. I mean,
and you think it has something to do with the fact that your instincts are feminist?
Yeah, my instincts are feminist. My instincts are towards social justice. I am a constitutionalist. I read and reread the Constitution of India several times when I was a student, and I believe it's a supreme document. It's a real blueprint of progress.
Right.
And I would recommend everybody read the Indian Constitution. So I consciously or unconsciously kept these values constantly alive, or I was trying to keep these values alive, and I think that made my voice maybe provocative. Maybe it made it sometimes maybe strident. But for me, these values were very important, and I think that's what marked me out. But I was, throughout I was very fiercely independent. I did not want to align with any political party because I didn't find that constitutional values were being upheld anywhere.
So there are values that need to be upheld for the larger nation, and there are values that need to be upheld in the profession, inside the newsroom.
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
And, we talk about the safety of vulnerable groups inside a very high-pressure environment in a very volatile, workspace, which is a newsroom. Around your generation of women are the ones who also started organizing. There were formations like the NWM.
We started organizing. We used to be
How did that come to the aid of women in newsrooms? Do you think that was a very important phase, these 90s, early 2000s, where women journalists...
I think women journalists began to increasingly speak out about, more equitable working conditions. For example,
you want to give a shout out to NWM in that regard?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. NWMI and that whole formation.
All of them.
You were part of all of that also,
yes,
right?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that, in my time, we campaigned a lot, for example, for working mothers. I was a working mother. I had 2 little kids. And, we used to come across what I call the glass club. Okay, there's the glass ceiling,
right,
but there's also the glass club. You know what the glass club is, right?
No.
The glass club is what they do after work when the men go out and raise the glass. So they go to the press club, or they go to the watering holes, or they go to the various places, and they sit all night or late into the night, raising their glasses, which we can't do because we have to go home and take care of the kids. And in any case, we can't do because you'll be misunderstood and stereotyped. So that is the time, after work socialization, which men are able to do, creates a lot of exclusive bonding and linkages and exclusive clubs, and they sort of shut you
mera
out.
Yaar hai, kind of.
Tu mera yaar hai, tu mera drinking buddy hai. You can never be anybody's drinking buddy, right? You can't be. So because you're cut out of these informal networks, you find yourself getting more and more marginalized as you go up. So we used to find one of the things I used to campaign for is more social spaces between in working environments. Instead of you going and doing your glass club,
neutral,
instead of you going and doing glass club at night, let's have more social spaces where we shatter boundaries between each other so that I'm not left out of your exclusive clubs. So this was a way in which this was one of the things I used to try and talk about a lot, and I hope it's working. But I still think the glass club rules.
So, I'm an admirer of this generation of women who kind of opened up these spaces and things like that. But then there is also this criticism that they didn't do enough for people whose reality is intersected with theirs, right? For other marginalized groups inside the newsroom. We were talking about, let's say, Muslims, Dalits, Adivasis.
No, I raise my voice for Muslims. Muslim communities all the time.
I'm saying in terms of newsroom.
In terms of newsroom
diversity.
Right.
Somehow, these experiences you speak of, essentially it is social exclusion, right?
Yeah. As a woman, you're
people will get
excluded.
very angry when you say intersectionality, but it is a fact that that's the very basic common ground between a Muslim or a Dalit and a woman. Which is that you're socially excluded.
You are.
Right. To that extent, there is a sense that there could have been more from your side because you understood this.
We understood exclusion and we fought exclusion. We fought exclusion, but I think we were too busy waging our own battle, but it was such an uphill battle. And I think, more solidarities could have been built, more connections could have been built between other excluded groups. That didn't happen because a lot of the time, as a journalist, as you know, a lot of the time you're just basically racing to the deadline. I mean, you're running to file your story, you're running to get your source, you're running to cultivate your source. And the newsroom kind of takes a backseat to what you're trying to do at work all the time. So you're 24/7, and in TV journalism, you're 24/7 running.
Right.
So you don't spend as much time in the, managing the newsroom or thinking about the newsroom perhaps as you should. But I think a lot more effort is being made now.
How so?
Which
Now
I
what's
think
happening?
there is aren't you guys a lot more
We have a lot of
diverse
diversity in
employees?
our, yeah, that's true.
You guys are
it's
much
a
more
fight.
diverse employers.
It's a fight. But
And I mean, I love that about politics, for example. I mean, the sheer diversity of people that you meet and who are involved in the political process. It's unbelievable. I mean, you learn to form connections with people who are not like you, who perhaps don't speak the language that you do, but you can still become friends with them and march together for a cause. And, I find that that is to me very exhilarating.
But you still concede that there's been a failing.
that the pressures of journalism, plus, a lot of it comes down to the owners, to the proprietors, and what kind of policies they follow.
You partly own, no? CNN?
No. I was never Rajdeep, my husband was one of the promoters, but we were never owners of the channel as such.
Okay.
And in CNN, IBN, yes, I mean, much more perhaps could have been done for diversity in the newsroom. But again, when you're busy setting up a channel, you're running the channel, you're standing up to pressure, you're trying to do journalism. And in TV, as you said, you're running all the time.
Yeah.
We didn't prioritize the newsroom as much, but I have to
how
say,
did news, do you think
but I
news
have to
suffered
say
in
that
some way?
I have to say that we did actually have a very diverse group of people. I mean, if you look at the CNN, IBN of the early avatar, it was, if you look at our anchors, if you look at our reporters, it was diverse.
Diverse by way of gender and religion, I would say. A few Muslims here and there, a few Christians.
Religion. There was also community. There was also community. I don't want to go into any names.
Okay.
There were certainly the people from the Bahujan Samaj represented. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now, I mean, speaking of that, so I see that you have throughout your career got trolled a lot. Throughout, yeah. At least from the time you got into television as a medium, right? And I don't know. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. But how do you deal with accusations of being a nepo kid? That you come from privilege, you come from an illustrious background. You have to account for your privilege. So there are two things. One, when it comes in a very offensive way, but then there is sometimes a genuine call to acknowledge that privilege. How do you strike a balance between the two? Because knowing you do...
I do accept I come from privilege, but my family is self-made. We are professionals. My father was a senior bureaucrat. My aunt my late aunt was a diplomat. My other aunt is a former judge of the Supreme Court, and we're a self-made, educated Bengali Bhadralok family. That does come with privileges, but these are not privileges of money. Or these are not privileges of sort of crony capitalism or privileges of politics, or that I came into a family which was a political dynasty. I don't consider myself a dynast at all. I had to slog all my life through academics. I was academically very bright. I did very well, and I won a scholarship to Oxford. I studied at Oxford. I did well there. I got a good degree, and I came back and joined journalism. Now, I can't deny that I come from a educated Bengali family, but my parents and my parents don't come from privilege. I mean, my grandparents were certainly not wealthy or in that sense.
Wealth. So, see, in India, you could be wealthy and you could still not be allowed inside a temple, right? You could be wealthy and you could still not. So in terms of
caste, yes, in terms of caste,
you're what, the Sadgop, no? That's the community
no, I'm
that you belong
Kayastha.
To. Kayastha, okay.
Kayastha.
Okay.
So, Kuleen Kayastha, whatever. I didn't even know about this. So I don't identify with the birth-based category.
I believe you don't, but people will identify you
People identify me as that. And so, yes, perhaps, I am what you call upper caste. But, they don't, and though that is a privileged category, I recognize that. But on the other hand, it's not as if I didn't have to work hard all my life. I've always had to work hard and prove myself. Nothing was given to me on a platter. I'm still writing books, I'm still producing content. But yes, I mean, I had access to English language education. I had access to a very good education. But then I got into St. Stephen's on merit, on my own merit. You know, I did very well in my board exam. So I'm actually quite confident that I am self-made.
Self-made, okay. So that journalism thing, we'll now move on, okay, from journalism to real politics.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And you said a couple of interesting things about the opposition, you know, which makes me wonder then where are we? We are also kind of fighting a good fight, because you said,
of course,
you know, the opposition is the last gasp of Indian democracy. Right?
I think so.
Okay. But look at the opposition, no? Look at the state in which it is. Because when you say it's the last gasp of this thing, I mean, they are still playing their little inside games. They are still not clear ideologically. Right? I went to cover the Chhattisgarh elections. Right? And here you have the party which is supposed to take on Hindutva doing Ram Van Gaman Path. If you remember, no? Baghel's flagship project. Right? And also just managing the elections very badly. Right? Just the election management itself was so poor, you know, that you wonder, are these guys serious? Like, I mean, how Kamal Nath sabotaged his own party, how allegedly our Gehlot did. And I'm talking about the Congress, and you can say, Congress is exactly like that kind of a party. But we see this across the board. To A, there is no ideological clarity. B, some very, very bad management. So you come across wondering if it is really that the BJP has taken on the ideological space, it has occupied so much that there is no room, or whether that is an exaggeration and that people are actually losing the battle more than them winning it.
So there are two things here, Sudipto. One is the concept of an opposition in a democracy, and the other point is, what is the opposition itself doing? It's the facts about the current opposition. Now, the first thing we need to defend, I think, is multi-party democracy. Because if we become a one-party state, one leader, one nation, one language, one clothes, one food, one way of thinking, one leader, one supreme leader, we are then a dictatorship. So the one-party state, I believe, has to be resisted at all costs. The multi-party system must be defended, because the multi-party system is what keeps democracy alive. One-party state is autocracy, and also a one-party state armed with a huge mandate is a predator on individual freedom. So, and will tell you what to eat, what to wear, what to love, who to marry, you know, how to live your life. So the one-party state must be resisted at all costs, right? So there is the concept of keeping alive multi-party democracy. There, I think the opposition has to exist. It has to just exist. I mean, you cannot wish away the opposition. There must be an opposition, whether in the states, whether at the national level. We have to have an opposition, or a broad theoretical level, right? Just so that multi-party system exists. What the opposition is facing now, huge challenges. But look at it. You've got the ED. 95% cases of the ED are against opposition members. Funds are being squeezed. Opposition chief ministers are being arrested. Hemant Soren, it is unprecedented in the history of independent India that an opposition chief minister has actually been arrested. Summon after summon against Arvind Kejriwal. The LG snapping at his heels. You know, mainstream media squeezes out the opposition. There's no space for the opposition. Keep dumping on the opposition, keep criticizing the opposition, rah, rah, rah on the regime all the time, rah, rah, rah on ruling party all the time. So what is the opposition? Look at where the opposition finds itself at this moment in time. You know, I mean, the opposition is literally, look at the way governors are acting. Governors in Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Bengal have been accused of playing a partisan role. You've seen how in full glare of the camera, a returning officer in the Chandigarh mayoral poll was actually defacing ballots to make a BJP win possible, right? So in every which way, the opposition is being squeezed. The opposition is being pummeled relentlessly from all sides all the time. The BJP is using state power, state machinery to make politics impossible for the opposition, to make any kind of life impossible for the opposition. Only I will exist. Only BJP will exist. Nobody else will exist. One leader, one party, one dress, one God, one religion, one language, one food, one dietary choice. That's going to be the BJP. No one else has any rights. The identities of all the states, the culture of the states, the leaders in the states, the parties in the states, none of that matters. Only the BJP will survive. Now, in a football game, let me give you an example. Do you follow football?
Yeah.
Or do you follow cricket?
Both, more cricket, less football.
Okay. So in a cricket, let's talk about a cricket match.
Okay.
In a cricket match, two teams agree on the rules. Do they agree on the rules or not?
Yeah.
The public also agrees on the rules. Now, supposing in the middle of the match, one team says, okay, the rules have changed. I'm going to constantly hit sixes. And the referee is only going to allow my sixes. He won't allow your sixes. The umpire won't allow sixes from you or fours from you. The umpire will only allow sixes and fours from me. Also, I will never get out. I'm never going to get out. Only you will get out. Your team will get out. You keep getting out, you keep losing wickets, but I'm never going to lose wickets. And the media applauds this, saying, wow, fantastic master stroke. The rules have been changed. Look at how the opposition is being beaten by this force. But you're changing the rules of the game.
Yeah.
You're not allowing a level playing field. You're saying that, there are no neutral umpires. The umpire is favoring one side all the time. And showing, in a football game, for example, showing the yellow card or the red card only to one team, only to the opposition. The government is committing foul after foul after foul. No red card to the government, only red card to the opposition and the opposition parties. So the opposition, yes, there are numerous challenges. There are challenges of message, there are challenges of ideology, there are challenges of unity. Every political party faces a lot of challenges. But look at what's happening to the opposition. I mean, the mantra of the BJP is opposition mukt Bharat. Why is that? How is that possible? That's not democratic. You can't wish away the opposition. The opposition, in a democracy, the opposition has a formal established role. It's established role. There's a leader of the opposition who is like a constitutional authority. He or she holds the government to question. He or she has a formal role in the ruling structure. The House, Parliament is the opposition's house. That's where the opposition holds the government to question. So you can't say that there won't be any opposition. Then what are you? I mean, are you Jean Bedel, Bokassa, who's going to become Bokassa the one, crown yourself king, and say, you know, I'm the king of, I'm the sort of, you know, I am the state. I am Louis XIV, l'état, c'est moi. I am the state. So since I am the state, nobody can say anything against me. And if you say anything about me, you're anti-national, you're Khan Market gang, Latians gang, or Tukre gang, some other gang, urban Naxal, anarchist, Khalistani. You know, what you're doing is you're robbing the opposition first of credibility with your social media army and name calling. Then you're demonizing the opposition. And finally, you're actually questioning the opposition's right to exist. And this is happening also with protesters, right? You're demonizing protesters. Women wrestlers are protesting on the street. They're not, they are actually being funded by the Congress, and therefore they have to be hauled away humiliatingly. Farmers are protesting on the road. They're Khalistanis. They're not genuine farmers. They're anti-national agents. They're anarchists. They have to also be tear gassed, and, you know, nails have to be put, and their passports have to be cancelled. You know, there was even a move to cancel the passports of the protesting farmers. Students are protesting. Students must protest. Students are made to students may be believing the wrong thing, but it's only by believing the wrong thing that you learn. You have to have the liberty to be wrong. So students are protesting. They are the Tukre gang. They have to be jailed. Somebody is protesting against CA, NRC. They are anti-nationals. They have to be jailed. Somebody is protesting against climate change. As a climate change activist who's circulating some information on social media, she's got a toolkit, and, you know, Disha Ravi, she has to put sedition. Yeah. Sedition has been put on Disha Ravi. You know, and some other journalist is going to, Siddiq Kapan is going to Hathras to cover a story. You've imprisoned him on the UAPA under terrorism laws, and he struggles to get bail. Why is someone like that activist Omar Khalid still in jail? Nobody knows. His bail plea has been rejected 14 times.
Right.
You know, so we'll look at the opposition leaders who are in jail. Manish Sisodia is in jail, the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi. Hemant Soren is in jail. A whole lot of AAP ministers are in jail. So are you going to just jail and imprison anyone who questions the government? I mean, we are looking at a situation where you're squeezing not just the opposition, but you're squeezing protest. And protest is a fundamental outflow from the right of freedom of expression and right to life and liberty. So you have to have the right to protest. Protest is a fundamental right. So what I'm trying to tell you, the upshot of all this is what I'm trying to tell you.
You're trying to say that
is that
things are bad right now.
No,
and
I'm saying things
are
are dark and the opposition is being squeezed from all sides. So when we castigate the opposition for whatever it is, and there are issues with every political party. And yes, you're right. I mean, perhaps there are organizational issues with some party. Perhaps there are leadership challenges with some other party. Perhaps there are message issues with other party. All of these issues are there. But at the very first basic, can these parties exist? They have to be allowed to exist. They're not even allowed to exist. So, you know, whatever, I'm saying we separate the two things. Let's have, we can examine the opposition, examine the problems that the opposition has, examine the problems of message and ideology, examine the problems of organization. Yes, a lot of problems. But the other point, the larger, more urgent point is that they just have to be allowed to live. They have to be allowed to exist. One cannot cancel out the other, that the opposition is bad, they don't have a message, they don't have an ideology, they don't have leaders, so finish them off, annihilate them.
So I get that.
That can't happen.
I get that entire thing.
Can't
and
happen.
The reason I didn't interrupt you is because...
Sorry,
I was... No, it's important. Like I said, even before we started this discussion, for us to take every opportunity to list out all those things that you have is important. Okay, and I suppose it in a way defines the existence of outlets such as ours. You know, because most often
I think it's very brave that you're giving me space to talk.
No, you should, absolutely.
And that you're giving me a space. You know, honestly, I wouldn't be able to say this on mainstream media. Would I be able to say all of this on mainstream media? Well, how many? Who are the corporates who've contributed to PM Cares? Or how many died in COVID? We can't ask these questions in mainstream media.
But I do feel, and this is an argument that is a running argument. Okay, just the other day, I was in Hafta with Abhinandan, and you know, we again started discussing the same thing, you know, where I was taking this position that, hey, we have to also, while we are talking about communalism, when we are talking about dictatorships, alleged dictatorships and all that, we have to reinvestigate, or we have to ask ourselves about the quality of our secularism.
Important
the quality
point.
of our secularism. With Sitaram Yechuri, okay, it was not a very easy interview with him, you know, and the same thing kept coming up, you know, saying that why are you not talking about what they are doing. The thing is, we have to hold people who are talking like you, people who are talking about secular isms, to higher standards, right? And that, I suppose, is also an important role. While yes, I mean, you cannot go after the opposition. If you don't, I suppose, in terms of credibility, in terms of informing the public, giving them the right to know, you can't airbrush the failings of
can't. I mean, of course you have to.
Particularly in the case of a party like the TMC, if you'll allow me to say this, right? Because you know, I mean, you've barely been nominated and already you're in the middle of a storm because of Sandesh Khali, right? I'll give you a second or two to talk about the Sandesh Khali thing, you know, and how it is symptomatic of politics in Bengal, and that whoever comes over there does this kind of politics. In fact, it is the method. It has become the nature of politics over there. And you are an avowed liberal. You go as far as to even say, I'm a left liberal.
No, I'm not a left liberal.
No, okay.
No, I'm not a left liberal at all. I'm a classical liberal.
Classical liberal.
Classical liberal.
Okay. We'll not go segue now, but I'm saying, okay, you're a liberal. How does your liberal self not get a little
okay, that's a very good question. That's a really good question. I think in every political party and in every democratic political party, there may be individuals within the party system who are not part of a certain way of thinking. And there are those individuals who perhaps who do commit mistakes. There are lumpen elements in every party. And I think that at the end of the day, we have to look at how a political party responds. how does a political party respond?
You said that so how did the political party respond? Okay, so I saw your statements. You said, hey, that guy has been arrested, you know, and the law
He has been,
and you know, the law is taking its course. But both of us can agree that I am sure I'm now appealing to you as the journalist, right? Where you can agree that there was a delay. Okay, number one.
But you know, I have to say,
just quickly, number two, you know, there was this prohibitory orders imposed over there, as a result of which even journalists couldn't land up on the spot. The opposition is trying to stir up trouble, so you can probably say for some time stay out. So that's why we are imposing prohibitory orders. But the 144 section applied to anybody who wanted to go and find out what's happening over there.
No, applied to who? Applied to journalists who
complained
they were not of Republic TV, who are not journalists. The journalists of Republic TV, according to me, are not journalists. They are propagandists. They spread hate. And they are not fair or accurate. So when a propagandist goes to a particular place and demands the freedoms of the journalist to practice hate and propaganda, he will invite consequences. He or she will invite consequences. So let's leave Republic TV out of this. Because I don't believe that, you know, who is a journalist? A journalist is someone who practices fair and accurate reporting, right? You have to be fair, you have to be accurate. You can't go in there seeking to incite or seeking to create propaganda or seeking to create situations that inflame because you want hate for profit. Because you want TRPs and you want hate.
You're saying only Republic TV was not allowed over there?
I think there was a case of the Republic TV
Others were
TV
I was not there, so you tell me. I mean, you are saying that
journalists were there. Journalists were there. YouTubers were there, and I think that it was important that the women come out, and they were certainly the mainstream media was there.
But okay, Sandesh Khali was. I didn't want to delve too much into it because it becomes current and it's not this thing. But you know, if I wanted to take a broader view of things, you know, we're talking isms. There appears to be a problem when it comes to secularism and the TMC, if you'll allow me to say this, because it seems that the two most vulnerable sections in Bengali society, which is the Namashudro and the Muslim, have continued to, like, one thing that people say over there is that political violence is a reality in Bengal, but no matter which political entity is fighting, which two isms are in a path of collision, Raja Duddhe, it's the Sipahi who's dying, and it in effect means that Dalits and Muslims are dying no matter what. They are the ones who are the worst victims of the violence. In Sandesh Khali also, I was looking up the demographics of that place. 65% is SC/ST in that place, and that vulnerability has not been addressed, and therefore the claims to a superiorism, the claims to secularism kind of ring a little hollow, no?
I don't think so at all.
No?
I don't think so at all.
See, because
I completely disagree with that.
Sandesh Khali is a one-off thing. There are these patterns. So you know, I had this one case. I just got it down somewhere here. Yeah, the Boktui massacre. Right, the Boktui massacre. 4 Muslim homes were tossed. 12 individuals burned to death. And
I don't think there was any TMC.
No. The TMC block committee president was arrested.
But he
arrested. The party remained largely silent on the issue. Case was transferred to the CBI by the Calcutta High Court, which determined that the police had not conducted an adequate inquiry. In addition, there are several atrocities now.
Look, don't use incidents to stain an entire party. Don't use incidents to stain or taint an entire party. Then should we say that there's a rape in Uttar Pradesh? There are instances in Uttar Pradesh, wrestlers having. So shouldn't that be laid at Mr. Modi's door?
That's what I'm saying. So there is a growing anger in the Muslim community. Okay.
Against the TMC, I don't think so.
Against the TMC.
I don't think so.
The kind of actions that were taken against the ISF by the TMC. What's your view of the ISF, by the way? Do you think it's like a right-wing Muslim organization? How do you
I think, look, I apply the test of constitutionality. Okay. If you abide by the rules of the constitution, and in India, then certainly you must be allowed to function, whatever your religion, whatever your persuasion. If you do not abide by the rules of the constitution, then you will have to face the rule of law. So that is my take on entities that are allowed to exist and not allowed to exist. But I would like to say that, you make this point about secularism. I think Mamata Banerjee is the only leader the only leader who had the guts on 22nd February when the consecration of the 22nd January when the Ram Mandir consecration was happening. She actually led a public multi-faith march down the streets of Calcutta with representatives of all faiths.
Yeah, quite spectacular.
Also,
that was quite spectacular.
I think that was spectacular, and I also think she celebrates Christmas with the Christians, she
Borodin
celebrates
and all of
Eid
that.
with the Muslims, and she celebrates Hindu festivals. She's a very devout Hindu, and in fact, there are many TMC leaders who are very devout Hindus who are worshippers of Kali, and so in that sense, I think Mamata Banerjee is truly a plural, multi-faith leader. I think she genuinely is, and also I also think that credit is often not given to the fact that there are two M's who stand by Mamata Banerjee election after election, which is Mahila, which had a huge, she had a huge jump in the Mahila vote in the last election, and Muslim. I think they stand like sentinels by Mamata Banerjee, which is why the BJP is constantly painting, using various words to describe the secular forces. But again, I would say that for me, I mean, think about it: a woman, a plebeian woman, without any patronage, without any family, without any...
You're talking about Mamata?
About Mamata Banerjee. Without any
She's
dynastic... sets up a political startup. She's, we talk about trolling on the internet and, getting upset because of Twitter. She was literally beaten on the street.
Beaten on the street, and that's...
She was beaten on the street. She sets up a political startup.
Yeah.
She keeps it going. She wins. She's a 3-time chief minister. She wins, and she gets, there are attempts to bring her down even as chief minister. She's vilified, she's stereotyped.
And she's a bit of and what I like about her personally, because I have a lot of, anti-caste, let's say, sympathies, is that she was not an insider in your Bhadralok circles, by the way.
No, she was not. She's
Banerjee by caste.
She's
the Bhadralok look at her as, once upon a time, she used to be dismissed
she was abused by the left. Yeah. I mean, the left, the so-called progressive left leaders used to call all of that. So I think that is a remarkable life story. Yeah. So I think to say that the TMC is not secular, I think it's a big mistake. No, I think that's a big mistake.
So what is secularism, right? That's why I said, should we now reinvestigate the quality of our secularism?
We have to look at secularism much more, as I say, as a doctrine of righteous administration. I've written about this in an article. I think that, for example, as a liberal, I do not approve of, for example, the ban on Salman Rushdie's satanic verses. I do not approve of bans on any books or plays that don't chime with secular opinion.
So for example, you then agree? That's why. So I gave you an example.
For example, the play "Me Nathuram Godse Bolto Hai," right? Now, Nathuram Godse is repulsive to me. He assassinated my hero, which is Gandhi. But I would still not ban a play that says "Me Nathuram Godse Bolto Hai," because to me that is a clampdown of freedom of speech.
That's where I'm coming from. So when I ask about the ISF, right, it's a Muslim political party which is claiming that it's being persecuted by the TMC, not being allowed to organize, not allowed to grow. Its leaders have been arrested on flimsy cases.
You have to pass the test of constitutionality. So if you're passing the test of constitutionality, is upholding the rule of law, non-violence, inclusive membership for all, and abiding by...
So you're saying they're violent and
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, are you passing the test of constitutionality?
They're not, you're saying...
I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm just saying that if a political party or any political entity... I don't know about it, but I'm just saying every political... So I wouldn't want to get into specifics. And I'm just saying that every political entity that exists in the landscape must pass the test of constitutionality.
Okay. You talked about two M's. Right, Mohila and Muslim. There is another M which is on which you can't really, you can't figure out which way it's going, which is the Motua.
So, the exceptional Motua leader is actually one of the other nominees with me.
Yeah, so from
Mamata Bala Thakur.
She's from Thakurbadi, and her relative is in the BJP.
Yeah. I know her very. I mean, I was very impressed with her.
What's happening there? What's happening in Motua politics?
I wouldn't like... I mean, maybe you'd speak to Mamata. She'll be able to tell you.
Now I'll speak to you. You're from a party
I think it would be better to
get a real insight into the Matua Samaj from Mausa.
But did you ever report on them when you were in Germany?
Not on the Matuas, but of course I know all about them. I've read. I mean, I'm very conversant with its community.
Matua politics. Cool. Okay. Now speaking of Matua, there is also the Rajbongshi. There's a fairly large population of SCs in Bengal. Do you think some of the positions you've taken on reservations, right? Now that you're no longer a journalist who's entitled to her view,
I think they hold. I consider myself an Ambedkarite because I believe in social justice. Okay. Yes, I quote Ambedkar all the time.
Right.
I quote Ambedkar all the time. I am actually very admiring of Ambedkar's critique of hierarchy, very admiring of his critique of certain orthodoxies, and also of certain social evils of Hindu society. So yeah, I think the Ambedkarism is a very fundamental strand in Indian liberalism.
Okay, so your views on reservations, right? So I was reading that section that you shared. So a bunch of people are asking you about what is the liberal take on the question of affirmative action, and you said this is my take. There are some 4 pages extracts from your book, and you focus, of course, you're quoting Rajaji. You're quoting Kaka Kalekar. Kaka Kalekar said supposedly that reservation should not be on caste basis, it should be on economic basis. And Rajaji was saying that, by making special privileges available, you are painting a bullseye on this community. They attract the ire of the rest of the society, all of that. But what's your solution? Your solution is
capacity
building. And there should be more colleges, there should be more institutions. Why have this feral competition? And then I was following that Twitter thread, and someone compared you to the last queen of France, Marie Antoinette, and said,
I think Twitter, let's
not. They don't have bread, and you're saying, why don't you eat cake?
No, I think Twitter is not the place to have these debates, frankly.
No, but in that metaphor, I feel there is at least it's nasty, okay. But if you take away the nastiness, there is the point that's being made, which I suppose is that there isn't enough bread going around. There are only that many institutions. As of today, this academic year has this many 100,000 students who need to be admitted this year, and social justice needs to be provided to them yesterday, not just today.
Absolutely.
Okay. So from that perspective, when you come and say, let there be more colleges.
No. Look, at the end of the day, first you asked me for a solution.
Yeah.
So my solution is capacity building.
Yeah.
But I would say that the challenges of social justice are multifarious, and they can't be addressed by a tweet. So they can't be addressed on Twitter. So now we can, when we look at social justice, we have to look at social justice for all, right? For all, and I think that that's the premise of liberal democracy, that we look at social justice for all, including the socially underprivileged, the economically underprivileged, the regionally underprivileged, the linguistically underprivileged, the gender underprivileged, even ideas underprivileged. There could be there are groups who are left out because of a certain the way they for example their sexuality. There are groups that are left out because of the ideas. There are groups that are left out because of geographical isolation. There are all kinds of exclusions, right? So there are in a country of multiple exclusions, and in a country of multiple disadvantages, we have to design policies which create social justice, deliver social justice in an incremental way for every community, right? For all disadvantages, to all disadvantages. Now, what I was doing in that particular book is, in that particular para, in that particular section, I was examining all the instrumentalities that exist. There is capacity building, there is reservation, there is, in fact, community-oriented initiatives. There are civil society initiatives. So civil society gets together and does without relying on the state. There is state action. There is also, I think, international connectivities, international solidarities across borders where countries can combine under UN forums or under multilateral forums to create capacities for multiple disadvantages. So I was looking at a set of variables that can come into play, looking at for different sets of disadvantages. Reservations, yes, of course they're an important instrument. Again, do they work for all disadvantages? Do they work for every set of exclusion? Does it work for every set of lack of privilege? We have to examine that. Does capacity building work for every set of disadvantage? We have to examine that. So, the issue is really extremely complex. And in a mosaic of communities like ours, in a kind of with competitive, it's a competitive mosaic.
Yeah, actually,
it's a competitive mosaic. It's a competitive mosaic.
If I can take you
so
there.
In a competitive mosaic, we have to design. Now, I'm not in government yet. Yet. But if I were to design a policy of social justice, if I was making social justice policy, I would first have multiple stakeholders talk to me about their disadvantages, right? All their disadvantages, and we would have to sort the solutions out through mutual dialogue and debate and consensus building.
Okay, so
that is my position.
I'll respond to it in 2 ways. If
I'm sorry, I'm not going to be pushed to a binary of yes and no. No. Because you see, the binary of yes and no, I think is doing an injustice.
Not at all. I'm not trying to push you into a binary.
To the issue.
My only thing is, you said there needs to be a discussion and things like that. My immediate knee-jerk reaction to it is, it's a little late in the day. This is a discussion that has already.
It is happening. It is, of course, But I'm saying if I was in a policy-making position, then I would get a discussion going.
Okay, but this thing of competition that you referred to, right? There is competition. Okay, but when you talk about affirmative action, when you talk about positive discrimination, right? When you talk about representation within the frameworks of DEI and all of that, the question arises as to what is, and this applies, I suppose, to liberalism when you talk about the economy also, free competition. Right? Is there really?
No.
Is there no? One minute. Is there really? Is society free? Firstly, for people to compete.
Society is not free, which is why we need dialogue. We need interaction.
The competition. When you make a call for competition, it's
no. I'm not making a call for competition. I'm recognizing competition.
Right.
Right. I'm recognizing that there is competitiveness between this mosaic of communities, and therefore, in order to militate against the competitiveness, we have to have first and foremost dialogue. We can't be in silos abusing each other. Because you see, what happens on Twitter is somebody's in a silo abusing me, I'm in a silo giving my views, somebody's in a silo talk. So unless there is cross-silo dialogue and debate at the very start, and I'm not going to be pushed to one line, I'm not going to be pushed to say yes or no, I'm not going to be pushed to come down on either side.
Asking you to do that.
Because these issues are too complex. And they're too complex, and the sensitivities are too high. So therefore, at the very start, if I was social justice minister, I would get a dialogue going.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Now, I'll leave it at that. And, once you become this politician who we can actually take, when you don't even have a slate. We can't say you have a clean slate. You don't even have a slate.
No, I don't have a slate.
Yet. So when your slate is a little populated, we'll go after you.
Okay, of course, please. I welcome it.
Yeah,
I totally welcome it.
Now I don't think it'll be fair to do that.
I totally welcome your
Now
questions.
I think the frame of this conversation or this interview itself is, how does Sagarika think? What's your ism, right? So by way of parting, if you'll allow me to just ask you to do on this, what do you call it? Rapid fire types, no?
Yeah, please.
So these 4 or 5 big isms of the 20th century, you saw the framework for the this election series, right? So how relevant are they in the 21st century is the scope of the inquiry. Now I want to ask Sagarika, I'll name each one of them. You say how you feel about them and where do you think they stand.
Right.
Okay. Because it's Bengal and because you've only recently replaced them, Marxism?
Marxism, too reliant on the state, not enough emphasis on individual agency. Too reliant on the collective.
Any sympathies at all?
Sympathies for many, Marxist social positions on doing away with social evils, doing away with obscurantism, doing away with superstition. But the distrust of the individual makes me mistrustful of Marxism.
Political relevance? Electoral political relevance?
None.
Really?
Except in one state. I think Marxism is full of intellectuals. And intellectuals, I don't think, make good politicians.
Okay. Which one's next? You pick. Feminism.
Very relevant. I consider myself a feminist. And I think men should be feminists. I love to quote Gandhi that...
but can men call themselves feminists?
Of course they can. You can have feminist men, of course.
You're not appropriating.
Not at all. I mean, I think, you know, I love the concept. I love this concept of the girl dad. You know, that men who have daughters call themselves girl dad. I think, look, Gandhi used to say that those who obstruct the rise of free, independent women actually obstruct the rise of free, independent men. So, so I think the solidarities across gender is very important. That's feminism for me. And gender solidarity, gender equality of all genders, and solidarity.
Yeah. And liberalism, your favoritism?
My favoritism is liberalism. I'm a classical liberal.
And
rule of law.
Do you think that people are still confused about what liberalism is?
I think so. Because that's why I've written this book. So now the people should read my book and understand what is liberalism. Why I'm a liberal.
What is liberalism?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why I'm a liberal and manifesto for Indians who believe in individual freedom.
Okay, we can frame like that. Okay.
This is my book on liberalism. So that's the reason why I wrote this book is because when I would tell people that I'm a liberal, they would say like, what is that? What is liberal? So then I realized that the Hindi word is udarvadi. Udarvadi. Accepting, tolerant, negotiation, dialogue, reconciliation, looking for the best in every...
And a little elite also.
Sadly, it's become elite.
Because
it shouldn't be.
Can you expect...
It shouldn't be. You know, Gandhi, you know, as I said, as I told you, Gandhi is not just the father of modern India. Gandhi is the father of Indian liberalism. I tell everybody to read Gandhi if they want to know what is Indian liberalism.
Okay.
Indian liberalism is
since you brought up Gandhi anyway, we have just a minute or so to go.
Yeah.
So Gandhiism versus Ambedkarism, not versus, Gandhiism and Ambedkarism.
I don't want to put verses. I mean, you know, Gandhi is my hero. I admire him. Ambedkar is another hero. I admire him. I believe that I can consistently come down to it. I am a believer in synthesis and dialogue. I don't want the Twitter-driven silos of are you this or are you that, or are you saying no to this or yes to that. No. Are you saying, you know, are you living in this polarized world of yes and no? Algorithm-driven polarization is not. I'm resisting the social media algorithm-driven polarization. That is something I resist with all my heart and soul. So the dialogue of Gandhi and Ambedkar is what I'm after. The dialogue of liberal and maybe rightism or leftism, or, you know, what is a democratic mandate? A democratic mandate is a practical instrument by which we use to engage in dialogue, not just with people who voted for us, but with people who didn't vote for us, right? So I talk to people who may disagree with me, who may agree with me, but also I want to be a politician who can engage with people who disagree with me. What should not happen to a democratic mandate is that it should not be weaponized. A mandate should not be weaponized to persecute, harass, and threaten those who did not vote for you or those who disagree with you.
Super. Okay, I think that's the show. But did you get your?
Thank you.
Do you think you got your say? Do you think
that was a wonderful show? I loved it. I loved the questions.
Thank you.
I loved the way
you approached it. So my entire thing is that you should talk and that I should give you a chance to talk.
And you know, this is the first time I've done such a cerebral interview. I mean, yeah, really. I mean, normally it says bang, bang, bang on politics.
No. But can I take a promise from you? So now, because this is an introduction of Sagarika, the politician, okay, and like I said, your slate is not colourful
but
yet.
As I said, I continue to write. I continue to be. Remember, I'm a Rajya Sabha member, so I'm not in thick of Lok Sabha.
Thick of things, but I predict that things will happen. You're in a party like TMC, you will be rolling your sleeves up and hitting the campaign trail, I'm sure.
I admire the TMC for for its formidable, for the formidable bulwark it is against the BJP.
So will you promise me when you have a slate which is colourful enough?
Yes.
You will promise me an interview.
Sure.
And
sure.
it'll be. I'll really go after you that time.
Please do.
Will you get your
please
say?
do.
Huh.
I think I remain completely on the journalist side when it comes to questioning, interrogation. I do not believe in executive overreach. So, I'll be open to questions.
And you will speak about us in Parliament.
I will. I certainly will. I will certainly take up the cause of journalists and media. I mean, this is my, you guys are my first love.
Oh, thank you.
So of course I will. And I don't like to think of it as that I've left journalism or anything like that. I continue to write, but yes, I'm in party politics. So I can't be a working journalist, but I continue to write. That's what writing is, I'm addicted to writing. I'm actually addicted to writing.
Okay, but I'm still going to say farewell.
Writing. Okay.
From journalism.
If you insist.
Yeah. I mean, next time we're going to meet as journalists and politicians.
Yes.
Now this time we were like halfway.
Yes.
Okay. But so that was Sagarika Ghose and her ism. Some of you might have disagreed with what she said. Some of you might have agreed. But I'm pretty sure all of you know where you stand at the end of this discussion and what's your ism. Thank you. See you next time.